Can't catch my breath, man.
Really? Should I try mouth stuff?
What is this, a Tinder date? Get off of me. Oh, shit.
Mr. Dante!
I need an ambulance at the quick stop. Let's talk about the premise of this, because it revolves around Randall. He has a heart attack.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's based on your own experience, your own brush with death.
Yeah.
Is this the most personal thing you've ever done?
I guess in a weird way. I never think of it as such, because I think of them as all personal. Like when I watch Clerks, it's a biopic. You know, it's like, oh, that was my life, and that was the thing, and that's what my girlfriend said to me at the time, and that's what my friend said to me. So all the movies that I make, I watch, and they're like, you know, very personal, whether I try to make them or not, just because I'm not talented enough to create shit, so I crib from my own life. Yeah. This one probably, you know, I've cribbed the most from my real life since maybe the first Clerks, maybe Chasing Amy. You know, Clerks, literally, that's what I did every damn day. In Clerks III, not only does Randall have my heart attack, and kind of goes through almost the same way I did, they also go make a movie in black and white about working in a convenience store, which is an oddly personal experience to me as well.
Right.
Yeah, I guess it is kind of the most personal of the flicks.
How close was Randall's experience to your own? I mean, were you cracking Star Wars jokes on the operating table?
Verbatim, yeah. Not those Star Wars jokes in particular, but I was cracking the whole time. I didn't realize that they had hot me up on fentanyl. I thought I was just being very interesting and charismatic in the midst of the worst moment of my life. And it was afterwards that, like, you know, they wheeled me out of the room, just like Randall says in the movie. He's like, they didn't give me nothing. And the doctor told my wife, it's like, he's high on fentanyl right now. So everything that Randall goes through is something I went through, except for the collapse. Like, Randall has a very cinematic TV, Fred Sanford, Elizabeth, you know, it collapses on the chips at the front of the counter.
Right.
I didn't have that. Like, I never knew I was having a heart attack till they got me to the hospital.
Yeah.
I just thought I couldn't catch my breath. But other than that, everything else is mine. And it came from, you know, as soon as less than a month after the heart attack, I was out there in the world telling the story. And you know, it was like an hour-and-a-half version of it. And then I got it down to a 7-minute version to do on Colbert and stuff. So I had the benefit of years talking about that heart attack, probably longer than I should have and stuff, and retelling the story in front of live audiences and finding out what's funny. Like, oh, that's a good thing to hold on to.
You were
that's
working
a good
out the
one.
routine.
Pretty without even knowing it,
Yeah.
you're like, oh yeah, it's going to be manufactured for use, man. Like, if you're going to go through it, might as well make it happen, make it useful to you. Same way I was doing heart attack material for a few years. I've been telling the story of us making Clerks, which is a charming Cinderella, you know, story with spit and glue. It's almost like the Little Rascals putting on a show.
Yeah.
For the better part of 30 years, and you know, I know what beats work and what beats would translate. So by the time I sat down to write this, it was a breeze, because most of it I lived, and it was all right there.
Sit around and watch the same movies over and over.
I always thought you could have made a cool movie.
You're right. I'm living on borrowed time. No more watching movies. I'm gonna make a movie!
Rick Darris, Ernie, kind of holds you guys to the fire for a moment.
Yeah.
He calls out, he says something like, you know, this movie has nothing but white
Like,
people or
he's
something
like,
like that.
lack of diversity.
The Asian design major gag, which is really
Yes.
funny. Have you gotten those critiques? Did you feel like you had to answer to like criticism you got over
Not
the
so
years?
much that, but like, I've got the benefit of time on my side, so I've heard every reaction to Clerks there is, and I've heard every question about Clerks. Being able to go back and not, you know, like rewrite history, but like comment like on where you've been. Like, we did a little bit on Reboot in the scene with Ben and Joey, like where she was kind of making cracks about Chasing Amy that like I've gotten over the last 10 years about like, why are we watching this movie through the opinion of a cis white male and stuff. So you take that and you put it in the mouth of Alyssa Jones, and suddenly it's like, oh, he's aware, he knows. Like, if they've ever bothered to go that far in your career.
Right.
People always ask me, it's so strange, they're like, how do you feel like you can even do what you do anymore, comedy? Because everyone gets so offended. And I'm like, well, if you look at my history, I always kind of brought it in on me. Like, I was never a punch down person, so when people are like, you can't punch down anymore, it's like, well, that was never my
You've always
shtick.
been more of a punch yourself person.
Very much. Like, I get the best laughs out of this kind of crowd and stuff.
Yeah.
So when going into this, there, you know, whenever somebody's like, oh, you can't do what you used to do, I'm like, no, I can't, because I don't know how you remember that movie, but it's not a movie that like attacks everybody or anything like that. It says Clerks, so they better they come through the doors looking for the funny.
Are you a strong believer in the sanctity of the trilogy? Is this it for Clerks?
No, not at all. As long as I'm alive, there's a chance
you're
there's
gonna be making
another
Clerks
Clerks is
movies.
coming. Yeah, some iteration of Clerks will keep going. Look, Lucas has Star Wars, and then he sold it, and good for him. But like, this is all I got in life. I got my Clerks.
Yeah.
Like so.
So this is the first of 3 trilogies, is what you're telling me.
We're heading into the next phase. Did I talk about the Hisk universe phase 2? I'll never stop with the Clerks characters because I found now that like Dante and Randall are my secret heart, right? That's the best way into a personal film by me. They're all personal because I steal from my own life, but these Clerks pictures have wound up being like, oh, that's him doing him.
Right.
That's as close to Kevin as we get.